2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado. Anthony, we are almost there. You and I are like 3 or 4 hours of sleep away from opening day. Are we mentally there? Are we mentally ready for Major League Baseball to finally be back?
I think the 3 a.m. start for, us on the West Coast was like, man, like it took me a while to really get going. But like this afternoon, I think like it hit me like, oh, it's going to count, when I wake up and turn the TV on. This one, it's going to count now. And like, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty juiced up, which scares me because I may not sleep well.
I know.
And so, my alarm is set and all of that stuff. So it may be a long Wednesday during the day for me at work.
Well, and then you just got to get ready to do it all over again on Thursday for 3 a.m. again, because
right.
I mean, I know it's not technically opening day, but it's the only baseball we're going to get for another 10 days. So I guess you can recover after that. Although March Madness starting on the same day. So lots to get to, lots to think about later, but lots to get to tonight. We're going to talk opening day roster, which has officially been announced. We're going to talk preview of the Dodgers Padres. But first, let's talk about a couple news items that hit sort of the Dodgers media over the last few days, Anthony. And we'll start with Shohei Ohtani, who is going to be the biggest story just about every day of this season. An interesting nugget comes out about him a couple of days ago that when they return to Los Angeles, Ohtani is going to resume a throwing program. Now, this is not to be a pitcher, but it seems to be cracking open the door for Ohtani to possibly play outfield at some point for the Dodgers this season. What was your immediate reaction to this when you heard it, Anthony?
I was a little surprised. It was something I had wondered about myself. Just kind of thinking, if his arm's good enough to throw from the field and obviously not to pitch, but, could that be an option? And I really started to think about it when the whole like Mookie stuff came up with Gavin Lux and, how were they going to position outfielders and, just all the dominoes that seem to be affected by this. It was something that went through my mind, but I didn't think it was a thing that would happen. And so when Dave Roberts said that the other day, it was a little surprising. I'm just curious to know like what the circumstances would have to be for him to get out there.
Yeah.
Because considering how valuable he is, it almost seems like just why bother? Why put that risk out there if you don't have to? So just kind of curious what those circumstances might look like where they tell him, yeah, you're in right field today.
No, I'm with you. I was surprised, and it just doesn't feel like it's worth the risk to me. And who knows? I mean, obviously, I don't think the Dodgers are going to take a massive risk, but I was kind of just mentally prepared for him to be a DH all year. And part of the storyline around Ohtani and part of the reason for some buzz and excitement even is that, oh, hey, all he has to do is focus on hitting. He doesn't have to think about pitching. He doesn't have to think about playing the field. He can just be as obsessive as this guy is about baseball, entirely focused on one thing. And that's not the case if he's on a throwing program and he's trying to build up his arm in order to get back into the outfield. So that's the part to me, and I mean, I'll phrase it this way. Do you buy into that it matters that he only has to focus on hitting? Or do you maybe take the Mookie Betts approach where it seems like fielding kind of takes his mind off of hitting in a positive way? Like, how do you interpret that piece of this story?
Yeah, I think the throwing program that's the natural progression.
Yeah.
For him coming off the surgery. So that part of it is I think normal and he was going to go through that no matter what. So, setting that aside a little bit, I think just sort of the odd thing is like, why have him do it in games?
Right.
So for me, that was a little bit, like I said, it was a little surprising. And I just am like, okay, well, why take the risk basically is just let the guy focus on hitting. Behind closed doors, he's doing his throwing program. Let him work on that, and just didn't really see the need. If he was like a Gold Glove caliber outfielder, then okay, maybe you flirt with it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, the last thing that you want to see from this guy is him having to track down a ball and a guy's tagging up or a guy's coming in from second to the plate and he unloads, you just don't want that risk when he's trying to get back to that, trying to get his arm back to the level where he can be one of the frontline rotation guys for 2025.
Yeah, and I guess if you were to make the case for why this is helpful for the Dodgers, I think the biggest person who would benefit from this would be Will Smith, because it is worth mentioning that Will Smith is in line to get less at bats this season than he got last season, because presumably there are going to be no available at bats at the designated hitter spot. And so typically the catcher is going to get a set number of days off in a year anyways, no matter what. And so if you're Will Smith and you're not catching, you can't go into the DH spot like that was an option last year. Not that he was the DH every single time he had an off day, but there were a number of times, 15 or 20 times, I would guess, without looking, where he was able to DH. Those aren't available. So I can see that being a benefit is if they can get Ohtani into the outfield, there's a little bit more roster flexibility. They can put a guy like Ohtani in DH. Another guy we've talked about a lot. I mean, let's say Gavin Lux can't figure out the throwing issues at second base, but gets off to a good offensive start. Gavin Lux could be a guy who could take some DH spot starts there in order to keep his bat in the lineup. You could get creative with some of the guys in platoon split. So I can kind of see why, like, the value of this. But at the end of the day, Anthony, the bottom line, I think I land the same place you. Why risk it? Like, let the guy just focus on hitting. Let him figure out how to get back to throwing a baseball in the outfield as a pitcher in the offseason. There is no reason to press this. And because what if, a 5% chance that this goes wrong and there's a setback and that, he has inflammation or something as a result of it that then impacts his hitting. Now we've got serious problems.
Yeah. And look, I'm sure they've laid out the early stages of what a plan could look like for, sharing that DH role between Will Smith and Freddie Freeman, maybe even Mookie.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that plan is in place and, at least a tentative framework. And maybe in the second half of the season to give Freddie some days or to allow him to be the DH, maybe Shohei plays first. Yeah. I can see that seems a little more reasonable, but yeah, putting him out there where he may have to make a throw and uncork one, I just don't understand the risk in that. And just kind of, Dave this spring has said some things that he typically doesn't say, and he's made some proclamations and things like that. And it's just like, what? Yeah. So not too sure if the front office was happy with him letting it be known that Shohei might play the outfield. But yeah, it was a little surprising in that vein, just because, again, it's not worth the risk. Not considering who this guy is and what he means to your future immediately and long term.
Yeah, and I see some people in the chat mentioning, you've got presumably some depth in the outfield as it stands. Teoscar Hernandez, James Outman, guys that you're expecting to trust every day. You've got Jason Hayward, Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, and as people are pointing out, even a guy like Andy Pages, who had a really incredible spring, who could be an option in the outfield. Miguel Vargas, who's going to be moving to the outfield, could be out there as well. And so it feels like they have enough flexibility there, but remains to be seen. By the way, shout out to our guy Blake, who's in Korea. So when we're getting news like this, that Shohei Ohtani is going to begin a throwing program, Dodger Blue is in Seoul, South Korea, getting these reports. So shout out to our guy Blake, still over there, still surviving. Apparently he's survived on the Korean food that he's been eating, or maybe not eating. I don't know. And by the way, I see people in the chat. This is a throwback KBO jersey in honor of the Seoul Series. This was a gift. I don't even know the name of the team that it was. It's not a team that exists anymore, but it is an incredible looking KBO jersey. So that's what we've got on today. Let's shift gears here a little bit, Anthony, and talk about another major news item that came down this week. Gavin Stone named the 5th starter for the Dodgers. I want to throw some numbers at you really quick. In the spring, which you and I have been over this a lot, how much stock we put in the spring is minimal, and yet I'll explain why some of what we saw from Gavin Stone, I think, does matter. So 13 innings pitched this spring, 17 strikeouts to just 2 walks. But the numbers that matter most to me. So last year, his fastball velocity was 94. This year, so far, even beginning in spring, it's been 95, 96. So at least 1 mile an hour tick up in fastball velocity. But here's why I quoted his spring numbers: 17 strikeouts in 13 innings, just 2 walks. Last season, when he was up at the major leagues, 6.39 strikeouts per nine. 6.39 strikeouts per nine. That number in the spring so far is more than doubled, basically. His walks, he was walking almost 4 batters per nine this spring, 2 walks per 13. So we're looking at a guy who at the major league level couldn't strike anybody out and walked way too many people. The command, the control seems to be there. He's getting more swing and miss. So you tell me, Anthony, should we look at these numbers and say throw them out because it's spring training and who the heck cares? Or are we looking at some of the things that were struggles last year, seeing improvements in the spring and buying them as real?
Yeah, look, I think that there are some numbers that are worth paying attention to. And for situations like this, you have a guy fighting for the 5th spot. You have a battle at one of the infield positions, let's say. Then some of those numbers do matter. And I think that what's nice to feel about this is that he knew coming in that he was fighting for that spot, and he went and he performed. Yeah. And he's clearly made some adjustments from the last time he was. I mean, his numbers weren't even great in the minors last year. Yeah. We just knew that this guy had the kind of stuff that could play up in the big leagues. Yeah. And so the fact that he made those adjustments, then went out in spring training, knew that a job was on the line with the big league club and performed, that tells me something about who this guy could be. Maybe a little bit about his makeup. Obviously, it says a lot about his stuff. He went out and earned it. I'm very happy he got that spot. Yeah. Rewarded for the strong performance he had in the Cactus League. I'm very excited to see what he could be at the major league level, and with the confidence that he has a spot. Obviously these things can change over the course of months, but I think for now he can go out there and know that if he has a so-so performance, he's not going to get shuttled out of the rotation.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned a word in there, confidence. I remember a year ago, the scouting report on Gavin Stone was, hey, this guy's a dog. Like, this guy has the mental makeup. And so that's another piece of it where, regardless of if you think spring training matters, for a guy who builds off of confidence and has some of that swag, you better believe that it matters to him, that it's going to impact his confidence, that he's going to go into his first start and believe that everything that he just put out on the field in spring training matters and that he is the real dude. Another thing worth pointing out, again, our guy Blake in Seoul got this quote from Dave Roberts saying that Gavin is built up to 4, potentially 5 innings. So that could be a big deal in that number 5 spot. A guy that, in an era where 4 or 5 innings feels like the maximum you're going to get from some pitchers, for a guy like Stone to be built up there for the first week of the season, that feels like another big deal for the Dodgers.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, he's on the progression to be a fixture in the rotation. I think that's what they're doing with him. It's not like they're going to turn him into a swingman or anything like that. And, you never know what's going to happen, but they're not anticipating that move. And I think for him, giving him that sense of security is a big deal. And, I saw one of the comments asked, is there a difference between bad numbers in spring training and good ones? Like, which ones count and which ones don't? Yeah. For a guy like Stone, who is trying to establish himself on a major league roster, they matter. If he would have had putrid numbers during the Cactus League, he probably doesn't win that spot. But a guy like Mookie, if Mookie hits 180 during the spring, you're not really worried about that. Yeah. He knows what it takes to be ready for the regular season. But for a guy who's battling for his first opening day roster, that kind of stuff does matter.
Yeah, and I see Matt in the chat pointing out something that I missed about the Dave Roberts quote. The other interesting thing, he said that Gavin Stone could potentially be the number 4 starter and not the number 5. So presuming that James Paxton was a guy that I would have penciled into the number 4 spot. Interesting that Dave indicating again to Blake that, hey, Paxton might be the number 5 starter and Stone may be 4. Now, I don't know what the thought process would be. I don't think it matters a whole lot right there, but it's interesting. I mean, maybe it's just a confidence thing for Stone. Maybe it's a way for them to say, hey, you're the number 4 guy. Paxton doesn't care. He's a vet. He's been there, but maybe that means something positively to Stone, whereas to Paxton, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Yeah. And they may be looking at this, they may sit in front of the schedule and look 3 weeks out and
Yeah.
plan for those first however many games and say, okay, we would rather slot him here for reasons A, B, and C and move Paxton back, maybe give him a little bit more rest between starts. I don't think it's necessarily we think that Gavin Stone's going to be much better than Paxton, so we're going to place him earlier in the rotation. Especially when you get to the back end like that, that's not necessarily what it means. It could be how they want certain guys to slot. For the front line of the rotation too, sometimes that even matters. We see it a lot in the playoffs, right? Where like maybe your full number one ace doesn't always start game one, depending on the series or depending what you're coming off of. So it could be something like that also.
Yeah, here's an interesting stat for you. Whoever the number 4 starter is will face the Cardinals on Sunday Night Baseball, first week of the season. So Gavin Stone could be, and that's the difference. The only real matchup in the first few weeks is the number 4 guy is going to face the Cardinals in game number 4, and the number 5 guy is going to face San Francisco in the first game of that series. Both of those starts are at home. And then both guys will face Chicago in the series after that. So there's not really there's no off day difference or anything.
Sure.
Maybe it's the Cardinals in game 4. They feel like they might have a better scouting report on the Cardinals, having seen them the 3 previous days, and they set Gavin Stone up for success in that one. But again, that's a pretty interesting, his first start of the 2024 season could be a nationally televised game. For you, just out of curiosity, like Sunday Night Baseball, do you think that still means something to a lot of people, or in the day and age that we're in, it's, people just trying to figure out what channel to find the game on?
No, it means something to these guys. Yeah, for sure. Especially for a guy like him, where he's still so young and his service time is still so low, and for him to get the ball in a spot like that, that matters. Look, we see it a lot, right? Like teams will adjust their rotations because they don't want a certain guy pitching in a certain atmosphere, and they would rather play him, pitch him at home. The Dodgers do it a lot. They shuffle the rotation in that way a lot. We see it a lot in the postseason as well. So I think it matters. And if he gets the ball in a game like that and he produces, that could go a long way for how he feels about his spot on this team and the confidence that he has going forward.
Yeah, and it is worth pointing out Paxton a lefty, Stone a righty. So to your point earlier, Anthony, it could be, does one of those teams, the Cardinals or the Giants, kind of match up better or worse against a lefty, and you can throw Paxton in that spot versus Stone in the other. So something to keep an eye on. Again, does it really mean anything in the grand scheme of things? No, but it's just interesting. And it may say something about what they think about Gavin Stone. So, all right, well, let's get to the opening day roster. The Dodgers have announced the 26 guys who are on the roster for the Seoul Series. And it's worth pointing out, this is a 2-game series, okay? Like, this 26-man roster is not reflective at all of what it's going to be in 10 days. But here is the list that the Dodgers put up. Obviously, Ohtani in the DH, Barnes and Smith behind the plate, Freeman, Lux, Muncy, and Rojas as infielders, Hernandez, Hayward, and Outman as outfielders. And then you've got Betts, Kike, and Chris Taylor as infielders, outfielders. No surprises there. No surprises as well. Yamamoto and Glasnow make the opening day roster. We know they're going to pitch these 2 games. The rest of the bullpen, though, Anthony, is interesting to say the least. Brazier, Grove, Kelly, Varland, Fireisen, Hudson, Knack, Vesio, Yarborough, Hurt, and Phillips. So if I were picking who I thought would be the 26-man roster for the domestic opening day, we know that 3 more starters are going to be on here. So 3 relievers would have to come off of this list. I'm including Landon Knack as a reliever, so he's probably gone. I would guess Gus Varland is another guy that's an easy remove. And then, who knows from there. But man, Brazier, Grove, Kelly, Varland, Fireisen, Hudson, Knack, Vesia, Yarborough, Hurt, Phillips. That's not the bullpen we had drawn up.
No, definitely not. And like you said, it's a 2-game deal. I think when this was released, the surprises were maybe not Gratterall not being on it, but the fact that it was no longer a hip issue that was keeping him off. It was a shoulder thing. And, they're saying that they think the shoulder issue was him compensating for the hip. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, but I guess that's possible. And then with Trinan, him being left off, and, is either of those guys going to be ready for domestic opening day now is a real question mark, I think.
And if they're going on the injured list, And this is where, with all the days off in between, I don't know, like a 10-day IL stint. When does that start? When does it end? But Treinen expected to go on the injured list. So he's not just
Yeah.
missing the Seoul Series. They're saying he's going on the injured list. And Matt in the chat might be able to help us out with that. But Treinen headed to the injured list. That's the biggest surprise, excuse me. He'll go on the IL after sustaining a lung bruise. The reason for that. So with Treinen on the injured list, Brusdar Graterol, as you said, now expected to be on the injured list. I mean, who comes off? So they're going to add 3 starting pitchers to this group. So Paxton, Bobby Miller, and Gavin Stone, the 3 starters who will be on this roster once they get to the domestic opening day. I think Gus Varland is an easy guy that you would expect not to be on here. Landon Knack, the other guy that I think is an easy not going to be on here. But besides him, we know Phillips is going to be on. The reports are Kyle Hurt is going to be on. We believe Yarborough. I mean, is it Vesia? Is it Fireisen? Is it Grove? Like, which of those 3 guys do you think might be on the outside looking in for domestic opening day?
Yeah, I saw the reports that they think Grove could pitch out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I think that gives them some depth, but also if they want to stretch him out, that's not the place for him.
Yeah.
You would want to get him the ball as a starter. If you're thinking that you may want to use him that way earlier in the season. Carrying 2 lefties right now, I think Vesia he's going to have to perform, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a little doubt there. He has the benefit of having been on the roster, for a while now. So maybe that helps him out. But yeah, when I saw that, I just wasn't sure, because I did the same thing. Like, okay, well, who comes off?
Yeah.
And I think it just depends. Like, do you want to carry just one lefty in the bullpen?
Yeah.
I think that's a question too.
Yeah, I think Vesia, Fireisen, the way they talk about Grove, it feels like he's probably has the best chance of those 3. I really like Fireisen. We haven't seen a ton from him that makes me feel super confident, although clearly they believe in him enough to put on this roster. I think Vesia was probably scratched off of most people's mind, just the way that they built this. But with Treinen and Graterol both expected to miss the beginning of the season, it seems like some spots up for grabs. So offensively, no surprises. I mean, this is the exact same 13 DH, catcher, infielder, outfielder, infielder/outfielder, the exact 13 that we expect to see. So, we'll see how those guys perform. Obviously, we hope we get to the domestic opening day and we're not dealing with any injuries or any of that kind of thing. Let's talk preview for this series. Again, a 2-game series as we record this here, 9:30 p.m. First pitch is, what does that make it? 5.5 hours away. If you want to get super, is that right? 5.5 hours away, which is depressing. Can you consider that we're all awake? So congratulations to us for less than 5 hours of sleep, guaranteed, for everybody that's watching this and expecting to get up. So shout out to us. But some notes about this one. Dodgers go 9-4 against the Padres in 2023. We've got Glasnow versus Yu Darvish as the matchup. The first thing that jumps out to me, Anthony, I forgot how bad Yu Darvish was last season. I mean, this is a guy I just, in my head, always dominates the Dodgers. Yeah. And it's worth pointing out, he was good against the Dodgers. 547 OPS the Dodgers had against Yu. But overall, 4.5 ERA for Yu Darvish. And so interesting to see if the Dodgers offense can get things rolling against a guy who's not getting any younger. And even though they didn't have success against him last year, seemingly everybody else in the league did.
Yeah. Their pitching is always sort of their question mark. Last year, that lineup that they had was stacked. It was scary even with Tatis out with the suspension. But it was the pitching that sort of, kind of did them in. And they had some waves where they were decent, but overall, that was definitely their weak spot. So to see that he's getting the ball on opening day, tells me like that he's the veteran. Yeah. It's the series is in Asia. I think that has something to do with it also. Sure. But yeah, it's hard to say if they really think that Yu Darvish is going to be their number one guy. Considering what he did last year, if that is the case with them, they're going to have there's some searching there. I think that they're going to be doing. And the Padres come in and we're all Dodgers here, obviously, and so we know what the expectations look like for this club. But over there, they have high expectations also. They're bringing prospects up to start on opening day. They're despite moving Soto off, they have a pretty good lineup, they believe. they think they can go out and win this division. Reading a lot of the coverage over there, they believe they have that kind of club. We'll see.
Good for them.
We'll
Happy
see.
for them. Happy for them.
For sure. They think this is a rivalry in a way that I think Dodger fans do not.
Yeah.
And understandably so, right? Like, they've traded a couple of playoff series wins in the recent past, but I think overall, you have to consistently challenge for your division, I think, to be considered a real rival. And the Padres just have fallen flat when it comes to doing that.
Yeah. No, I loved getting to chat. Matt and I, if you missed it, had a chat with Scott Kaplan from ESPN LA, also a guy who's had a radio show down in San Diego for 20 plus years. And we basically asked him, we're like, what are the vibes down there? Are people buying in? And he's like, yeah, the fans all think they're going to be awesome. And Scott's like, I don't get it. They weren't good last year and they're worse this year. So I don't know exactly where all this optimism is coming from. But, I suppose you look at a guy like Yu Darvish and say, hey, 4.5 ERA, he's better than that. And those are the types of things that you begin to think. One other note here, just looking at some guys who have struggled against Yu Darvish in their careers. Mookie Betts, Will Smith, and Max Muncy, all a sub 200 batting average against Darvish in their career. There's one guy, though, on the Dodgers roster who has had success against Yu Darvish, and that's Freddie Freeman, 926 OPS in his career against Yu Darvish. So if you're in a place where sports betting is legal, some Freddie Freeman overs might be the way to go. And I saw Matt in the chat mentioning Yu Darvish versus Shohei Ohtani has never happened before. No career at bats for Ohtani versus Darvish. So that'll be a fun one to watch. Obviously, guys that have immense respect for each other due to some time playing together on the national team and that sort of thing. But it'll be a fun game, I think, nonetheless. Dodgers heavy favorites as well, minus 190 on the money line there. Let's flip to Dodgers pitching. Glasnow, we've talked numerous times about how good this guy has been in the spring. Are you expecting Glasnow to come out and dominate and shut down the Padres?
Yeah, I don't know about shut them down, but I'm expecting him to perform well. Okay. I don't know off the top of my head, and I should know this. I don't know if this is his first opening day start, but that means something. It means something to do it in a series like this, where sort of kind of the world's eyes are on Major League Baseball. So yeah, I think that this says something about how the Dodgers feel about him and his future in the organization. Obviously, they gave him the 9-figure contract. So yeah, they expect him to be able to take the ball on opening day and maybe game one of a playoff series or something like that. They look at him as that kind of guy, and his stuff plays there, right? It's just a matter of, can he take the ball every time he's supposed to? So yeah, I think this is a really good opportunity for him to endear himself with this fan base. I'll tell you that right now, because if he goes out and he shoves it, there's going to be a whole bunch of Glasnow jerseys when the Cardinals come to town. And if he doesn't, we're going to have to be talking about it on the next Dodger Heads, I'm sure.
Well, 2 weeks worth of Are You Concerned About Glasnow?
Yeah, right.
Matt pointing out third career opening day
third
start.
opening day start. Okay, yeah. So, which is even better because he understands what comes with this responsibility. I fully expect him to be the kind of guy, to look like the guy that the Dodgers expect him to be.
I'm just looking. I love looking at this, just some of the lines. And again, I know most people are in California, which means you don't have access to any of these things, but I just find it interesting. Glasnow over under for outs recorded is 15.5. The over is even money. The under is minus 130. I would be pretty surprised if he goes past the fifth inning. That feels like minus 130. I know there's some juice, but wouldn't you be surprised if the sixth inning is happening and Glasnow is still on the mound, given how big the bullpens are and where we are in a build-up progression?
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to be at like 50 pitches, right?
Yeah.
Mean, he'd have to be just mowing them down. I think that. Yeah, I mean, I don't
even think it has anything to do with success.
Not at all.
I'm taking the under strictly because I just think they have a plan in place where I don't even know if he gets through more than 4. And again, not because he'll be pitching poorly. I just think they're going to handle him with baby gloves because they know that where he is in his buildup, they've got 10 more days until his next start after this. So they don't want him at full strength today or even really in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I think that 15 outs I think that's his max.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Minus 130 on the under there, if you like it. So some other ones, 6.5 strikeouts is the over under for the same reason. That feels like a big number.
Yeah,
Now
that
there's
feels high. Yeah.
huge juice, minus 170 on the under. So they don't want to let you bet 5.5 on the over under there.
Yeah.
But if you think he's going to go 5 innings, 7 strikeouts and 5, that feels like a lot. Although, they say pitchers are usually ahead of hitters this point. Who knows if that's true? Glass now plus 135 to record a win. Those are like sucker bets, but I always get sucked in. Because again, you've got to believe he's going to go at least 5 innings and that the Dodgers are going to have the lead and that they are not going to give up the lead. A lot has to go right there, but minus 190 on the money line, plus 135 Glass now to record a win is kind of an interesting one. Padres over under 3.5 runs. Again, the over plus 100, under minus 130. What do you think about that one? You think, do the Padres get 4 runs? I mean, even money on the over.
Yeah.
We just talked about the Dodgers bullpen. If Glass now only goes 5 and you've got to get 12 outs from, basically outside of Evan Phillips, there's maybe Ryan Brazier. There's not a ton of arms that you're 100% positive in. What do you think? Here, I'll give you another one. Dodgers team total. Dodgers team totals 4.5. So again, the over on that one is minus 140. So you're going under Padres 3 runs. You taking the over on Dodgers on 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. So there you go. I mean, anything else from this game? It's so hard because all we've seen is spring training. But before we take some questions here, tonight might be a slightly shorter show because we've got to get some rest before this 3 a.m. start time. But aside from what we've talked about, Glass now, Darvish, some interesting names in the Dodgers bullpen. Anything in particular you're keeping an eye on in this one?
I'm a little curious to see how they pitch through this San Diego lineup.
Yeah.
Sort of if we can glean anything from it. It's still pretty early, so they don't go full on game plan, right out of the gate for a division rival, especially. Sometimes they might play with their food a little bit, but yeah, I'm curious to see how they pitch, especially some of their bigger hitters at the top of the lineup and especially what Glass now might do to them. That's something that I'm curious about. And then obviously for game 2, like you want to see what Yamamoto does. Like I think the whole baseball world, is going to be watching that one to see how he performs in the first time he throws in the big league. So
yeah,
I know that's not our opening day right ahead of us, but those are definitely the things that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Ha-Sung Kim playing kind of in his home park, and we know how popular he is there. Obviously a monster home run the other night. So whether or not he can, two. That's true. But whether or not he can sort of build off of that, I'll be curious to hear just sort of the noise when that guy gets up there. I mean, that's one of the other things, I guess. I'm just curious, like, what does it sound like when Ohtani gets up there?
Yeah,
what does it sound
curious
like
about the atmosphere?
Some of the guys there, because we know it's a smaller stadium, but obviously they've got the chants and the dancing and people that are as fired up to see baseball the first time ever, Major League Baseball being played over there. So it should be good stuff. Let's get to some questions here. Again, we'll take 10 or 15 minutes worth of questions. We appreciate everybody who's joining us live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube as well. If you're listening to this after the fact via podcast, the game might be over by then. I mean, if you're waking up and listening to this before the game, shout out to you. You're a true fan. So thank you so much. GI wants to know, with the offseason moves made by Arizona, San Diego, and San Francisco, is the NL West now the toughest division in the league? I'll admit I'm not very good at answering questions like this because I'm not nearly as up to speed on what the other divisions are doing. The Giants don't scare me. You've still got the Rockies that are in the division. I think the Diamondbacks are going to be good, but let's keep in mind that the World Series run was not indicative of the entirety of their regular season. So
yeah,
without knowing in depth every other division, I struggle to think this is the hardest division in baseball, but you tell me, Anthony, what do you think?
I'm not impressed by what the Diamondbacks did or did not do in the offseason. They kind of came out and said, we don't feel like we get to do a whole lot. We're just going to try to get into I think what they said was, we feel like we're good enough to win the division, which they're not.
Yeah.
The playoffs is something completely different than the 162 game regular season. They weren't necessarily built for that last year. But I think their thinking is, we sneak in again and maybe we can get hot and make a run. And it's unfortunate for some fan bases. We really are lucky to be part of this fan base because, you have a lot of organizations around the league that kind of say, we're not going to go and spend, and we're not going to be exciting in the off season, and we're not going to do this or that. We're not going to trade for these guys. We're just going to roll with who we have, and maybe we can get in, and then maybe we can make some noise there. And that's kind of what the Diamondbacks are doing. I'm not impressed by what they've done. The San Diego play for Dylan Cease was a very aggressive move. I think we've talked about this before. I don't understand why you make that move, but you trade Soto. If you're going to be all in, then be all in. And so, he helped solidify that rotation a bit, but still, I think pitching could be a problem for them. The Snell signing, the Chapman signing for the Giants, I think are solid. I think I saw something that said that the Giants had signed or traded for like 4 or 5 of the guys, or 4 or 5 of the guys who were expected to be like really productive kind of players. I forget exactly what the stat was, but they kind of flew under the radar and had a decent offseason, I think. I don't think they are going to be a pushover. But who is the hottest contender with the Dodgers for the top of that division? I'm not too sure yet, but I think the Giants have a shot.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I just looked up PECOTA standings, which is sort of a projection model. They actually have the Giants projected to finish second in the NL West, 85 and 77. They've got the Diamondbacks just behind them at 84 and 78, let's call it. Colorado projected to be the worst team in Major League Baseball, to give you some context. So, San Francisco, by their winning percentage, 525, just to put that in context. Let's see, there's 2 divisions in the league that have a better second team. I mean, just looking to NL East, the AL East, I would say appears to be the most competitive. Their 5th place team, Boston, projected to be just a tick under 500. So that's a team that in a lot of divisions would be 3rd or 4th. So I mean, it's tough to say, but again, I just find that interesting.
That Giants, I have that Giants stat. So it says the Giants have signed 5 of the top 25 free agents in terms of projected Fangraphs WAR.
Wow.
Jung-Hoo Lee, Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Jordan Hicks, and Jorge Soler. So, like I said, kind of a little bit under the radar, but a pretty good offseason for them. I think that makes them good enough to be contenders, and probably with their rotation a little bit better than the Padres, I think, coming out, at least on paper.
Yeah. Again, PECOTA has the Padres finishing 4th at 81 and 81. So an even 500. So
if they finish 81 or somewhere around there, how long does Preller, where's the accountability at for AJ Preller?
Yeah. He's going to be toast. EB, are you guys going live at 3 a.m.? We are not. That would be good for nobody if we were live at 3 a.m. We will all be 75% at least awake watching the game. We have a live show scheduled for 8:15 a.m. officially on record, the earliest and hopefully forever the earliest post-game show that we ever do on DodgerBlue.com. But 8:15 a.m. that'll be the plan for a live show. David says, should I take the Dodgers on the money line or give the run and a half? Again, Dodgers minus 192 on the money line just to win. If you want them to win by 2 or more, it's minus 115. I'll never bet something that's minus 190. I'll just say that. I'm not rich enough to put enough money on that to make money. So if I'm betting the Dodgers, give me the run and a half. I don't know. Are you a sports betting guy, Anthony?
I'm looking at a Dodger Blue comment here that says Jeff doesn't want accountability for Preller. He wants him to sign a lifelong extension.
No, that's true. I did say to Scott, I said, I think he does a great job, and I think they should just give him a lifetime contract. So I do want that. I don't think
I will answer your question, but you know what he does really well is he gets that fan base to believe at this time, right? He gets them to believe in March, and then by June, they're out on them. So
yeah, I'm with you.
Am I a betting guy? Yes. Okay. I don't bet a lot of baseball, just because it's so tough. It's really tough. I don't bet a lot of NBA anymore because night to night, that's tough also. Yeah. College basketball and college football is kind of where I like to live.
Okay, well, while we're here, college basketball. I mean, who do we like?
On the women's side, I like Juju Watkins and USC.
Okay, all right.
And on the men's side, I think UConn can repeat. I think UConn's going to repeat.
All right. You got any first round picks that you like the numbers on, anything like that?
I was waiting for the games tonight. I haven't looked at anything really. I was waiting to do that tomorrow and
Okay.
fill out a bracket and all that stuff. But yeah, I do like Connecticut on the men's
Okay.
side.
I like that. I read up a little bit on New Mexico in the first round, kind of a number that people like. So there you go.
Houston, if no one's if there are any NCAA tournament fans, Houston's a fun team to watch. So if you catch them on TV, watch them. They hound the ball defensively. They're fun.
Yeah. Baseball wants to know, tuning in from Seoul, thoughts on bringing a cheer squad to Dodger Stadium in the next decade. What do you think? We going to have cheerleaders on top of the dugout soon, Anthony?
Yeah, the Lakers were the first to do it in basketball, right? Why not the Dodgers in baseball? Look, hey, they're creating at Dodger Stadium a really, really great fan experience.
Yeah.
If people haven't gone there lately, it's awesome. The whole area in the outfield is really cool. They've redone some of the concourse a little bit, slowly but surely. Yeah. So hey, I don't think that cheerleaders on the dugout are out of the question in the near future.
Who knows? El Sheva wants to know, Jeff said we have Hernandez in the outfield in the opening game. Is it Kike or Teoscar? Teoscar is the one listed as an outfielder. So, yeah. I mean, it's going to be him. But Kike is listed as an infielder.
They signed him to start.
/ outfielder. So Teoscar is the answer to that question. It was Matt that said, I don't want accountability. It's true. Yeah, hallelujah. Thoughts on the Chisholm interview and his beef with Rojas? I don't know if you saw this. Sports Illustrated posted that Jazz Chisholm went on a interview on a podcast and was talking about a team captain that he was not happy about. Everybody is assuming it's Miguel Rojas. Unless I missed it, I don't believe it's ever been officially confirmed. But I believe the story was Chisholm was sleeping in the dugout and ended up missing a team meeting because Rojas walked right past him, opted not to wake him up in time for this meeting, and then got mad at him for missing the meeting. So your thoughts on that, if true?
He was like taking a nap in the dugout?
I think he was taking a nap in the clubhouse and didn't wake up in time for a team meeting, but was also like nobody woke him up in time for this.
Yeah, bro, you're a professional. You're a grown ass man. I'm sorry, you're a grown up, dude. Like, wake up and go to the meeting. That's your job. Like, it's not on Rojas to wake you up.
But Rojas walks right past him and then gets mad at him. He can't help his buddy out. You're the team captain. Nudge him on the side and say, "Hey."
Well, like I said, we don't know all the context. Maybe there was still 10 minutes left and he was like, oh yeah, he'll be up, or yeah, who knows? I don't know, but maybe he was trying to let him get that extra 5 minutes or something.
If this story is true, I'm going to give some sympathy to Jazz, because look, like, it's like getting mad at someone for doing something that you had the ability to prevent them from doing. If you're the team captain, if you're the veteran and Jazz is the young guy and you're taking him under your wing like you're supposed to, help him out. Help him out. He's right there. You have to walk right past him. I don't know. I'm with Jazz if true. Again, Rojas has not been officially named. We haven't heard the other side of the story. It's just presumed. But
dude, set an alarm.
Yeah.
If you need to nap and you have a team meeting, set an alarm. We're setting an alarm for a 3:30 a.m. game or 3 a.m. game.
That's true.
Set the alarm.
Ozzy says, I took Glasnow over 6 strikeouts for my bet. What do you think? I was saying the line here was 6.5. So at 6, I'd feel pretty good about.
I just don't know if he's going to be in the game long enough to get it.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting. I think he's going to strike some dudes out because, again, if you believe pitchers are ahead of hitters, I'm with you. I think the biggest question is, how many innings does he throw?
Yeah, I mean, if they say, you know what, we're going to try to get you through 6, I think it's possible. But if they stop him at 5, and let's say he's got 80 pitches or something like that, 85 pitches, I don't think he goes back out.
Yeah. We got a super chat here from John Bleeding Blue. Thank you for the super chat. Walker Buehler said his fastball yesterday clocked at 97. What are your thoughts?
I was very happy about that when I heard that.
Yeah.
I think the report came from him, though. Yeah, he says Walker said, I don't know who had the gun there, but if that's true, that is very exciting. I saw that a little bit earlier, and I thought, oh boy, yes.
Yeah. Look, we've had Buehler has been probably the largest source of debate amongst our staff over the last few weeks. Blake has famously said Walker Buehler is cooked. The rest of us have pushed back on that assertion. So, and part of the reason was Blake was pointing to some very early in the spring bullpens where he was allegedly throwing like 92 miles an hour. And, I think Daniel was like, hey, let's see where he's at the end of spring once he gets closer. Look, if this number is real and he's touching 97, even if he's not sitting 97, if he's touching 97 and sitting kind of in the upper 95s, right around 96, I mean, it's hard not to get excited about that as if you're a Dodger fan. Just from a health perspective alone and what that could mean for where his arm is going to be.
That's more where my excitement lies, is that if he's healthy enough to be touching mid to high 90s right now, that's a positive. What his production looks like once he gets back with the club, we'll see. But I think right here, this tells me that he's feeling good, and wherever he's at in his progression for his rehab, he's in a really good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One other note, if you missed the news story, by the way, reports were that there was a bomb threat against the stadium where the Dodgers will be playing for us tomorrow over there today. But Seoul police have confirmed that it was not credible per a person with knowledge of the source, and the game will proceed as planned. So if you hadn't heard about that, there was a bomb threat allegedly, but they're not worried about it. And so the game will go on as planned. So folks, I think that's going to do it. Here we are, 9:54. The alarm is set for not a lot of hours from now, but it's baseball. We're going to get out on this, Anthony, and I'm going to ask people in the chat as well. What do we got for a score? So you said under 3.5 for the Padres. And so, I mean, give me a number here. What do you got for the final score tomorrow? Throw some stuff in the chat. We'll put some people's answers up here as well, but I'll let you go first here, Anthony.
I like 6-2.
6-2.
And I think we see a home run from Freddie.
Yeah, I like Freddie.
And I think we see a home run from Teoscar.
Okay. There we go. There's a little sleeper. We could get some good numbers on. Let's see what numbers we would get if you won home run on those guys. Home runs are always, So Freddie, 4.5 to 1 on a home run. Teoscar is going to be a nice number. Ooh, Teoscar's plus 390. So Freddie's actually got better. I always never know what this is, better or worse, but
longer,
less likely to hit a home run, Freddie Freeman, than Teoscar Hernandez. That's interesting. So you're going 6-2 is your final here. Let's get some EB 11-1. I like the confidence. I'm assuming the bigger number is the Dodgers on all of these. So if not, shame on you. Hawaiian Kira 5-2. Jeff has 7-6, not me. Cheesecake 8-2. Williams got 8-2 as well. NS 7-2. Rogers got 7-3. Tony 9-3. Vincent says Otani home run. That would be amazing. I mean, content for days if Otani goes
for sure.
Vincent's got 5-3. Showtube's got 7-3. So good stuff there. Otani 2 home runs for Yang Yi.
Yang Yi wants to know what the odds are that Lux will make an error.
Odds that Lux makes an error. You know what? I'm going to be honest. That is not. Don't believe that we've got that prop. I don't think errors is. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think we got any errors on here. So too subjective, if you ask me.
Yeah.
7-3. Steve's got 12-4, 6-2. Lots of people. I love.
So we have a lot of people thinking the Padres score around 2-3 runs.
Yeah.
That's I like that. That's where I'm at with it too. What's your prediction?
I'm gonna go. I think Glasnow is going to be really good, so I'm going to take the under. I like 3 runs for the Padres. And you said what, 6-2? I'll say 5-3. Give me 5-3 for the Dodgers. And I know that's kind of a cheat because I'm taking barely the over, the Vegas over, and the Vegas under. I'm playing the odds on both sides, but give me 5-3 there. Worth pointing out, Matt, in the chat, we have an Instagram contest up with homage. I don't know. It's like one of the hardest words to pronounce, the silent H. But they make great stuff. So if you haven't checked out the Instagram, go over to Dodger Blue 1958 on Instagram for a contest over there. They've got awesome stuff. So definitely check that out. So, well, folks, that'll do it for us tonight. A huge crowd, almost 1,400 people. We love to see that on a Tuesday night, almost 10 p.m. with first pitch. I mean, literally 5 hours away from right now, which is insane. So everybody go get some sleep, get some shut eye, whatever you got to do to calm the heart rate down a little bit so you can get some sleep. before that because it's a Wednesday. So most of us have a normal day ahead of us once we finish the 3 a.m. game, the 8:15 live post-game show. Myself, Daniel, Matt will be right here on the Dodger Blue YouTube channel. So check that out. Scott Gierman might be making an appearance as well. So stay tuned for that. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. Enjoy the rest of your night, folks. As always, tomorrow, opening day. As always, go Dodgers.